Artistic Gamer 7, and welcome back to another Create a Sim video here on the channel. This one, obviously, as you could tell by the thumbnail and the title, is the Create a Sim for the Gorgons, which I have done a Sims 4 Occult discussion on. If you have not seen that video, there is a link down in the description below directly to the Gorgons video for the Sims 4 Occult discussions. I can't talk. That's not anything new if you've seen any video on my channel. But anyway, there is also the playlist for the Sims 4 Occult discussions down there as well if you want to go actually see all of them. It started with witches because I had made that one before I heard anything about spellcasters, and then the first two after that I had recorded before my long break I had, and then the rest of them I have recently recorded. But as of so far, the only one in my list of Sims 4 Occult discussions that is actually occult now is the spellcasters, aka witches. But anyway, this is for the Gorgons one, which is one of the occults that I definitely don't really ever see coming to The Sims 4, but enough people mentioned it in the tweet, and I actually thought there were some pretty cool ideas behind it, so I decided to make a video on it. Therefore, I needed Sims for it. When I was looking for CC, I was really hoping to find, and there might be out there, some people are way better at looking for CC than I am, and then also just some people know different sites than I do and things like that, and also sometimes it may be even a region thing, so you know, someone out there might have this CC, but I could not find it. I was trying to find CC that was like snakes that were more for like hairstyles, which is a really strange thing to look for, but I didn't. I did find some other stuff though that I used in replacing of them, but and, like, for the female Gorgon that I sort of made here, I obviously had this headpiece I did find that had, it was like a snake on the head, so I was like, close enough! But with the hair, for both the male and the female, I wanted to go for either something more braided or, like, almost more towards some of the clay styles. I considered it, but I really like my alpha hair. So I ended up giving her, like, a big thick braid. I think his is like little tiny braids. They may be dreads, I don't know. The color I chose for him and stuff, I didn't really pay attention if it was more dread-like or more braided-like, but it still had that feel that I was going for, more to try to get more of that vibe, sort of. But yeah, so, and otherwise I would prefer it to be actual snakes, but that would be something that you would have to either make yourself or hopefully find a very, very specific custom content creator who makes things like that. I could not find it, but or the Sims team themselves would have to make. But yeah, I definitely was trying to put as much like snaky vibes on them as possible. I do give them a tail. Technically, I wouldn't mind if a tail was an option, though the way that they are designed to me looks more like snake creatures, people, versus like what I know for Gorgons, because Medusa's like the main one, and technically there's only like, I don't know if Medusa is technically the only one, but I do know from things I've read, and I mentioned it in the other one, that she did supposedly have sisters, but the way I could get was that they were immortal, she wasn't, so it was almost like she was half human, so it was really confusing, and I talk more about that in the other video. But, so yeah, the way that these Sims ended up looking to me looks more like how some people draw the like snake-like creatures. I know I make a lot of D&D references in these occult discussions videos, but it's one of the things I'm personally very familiar with that has other races. I do know there's other things. I also mention Skyrim sometimes, but Skyrim does not have any snake-like people. So, or even Elder Scrolls for that matter. If Skyrim's the first thing that pops in my mind, but the whole grand scheme is Elder Scrolls. But anyway, so they are more like a version of the Yuan-ti. The Yuan-ti are mainly more humanoid, and they usually have 2 legs, but there is a version of them a lot of people draw that have the snake tail instead of the human legs, and they have the human upper body. But anyway, so that's more of what this looks like, but this was sort of the best that I could go for. At least it got the snaky vibes across, which is the whole Gorgon thing with the snakes and the hair and all that stuff. So that's what I was trying to go for. I know with the female, I took forever trying to find a top for her. Like, because I didn't want to go... The tops that I was really wanting to use, because they were very simple or they looked like a more... I don't know how to describe it. Basically, either living out in a village in the forest or something on their own, like they're not as modernized or whatever. So, was what I was technically going for, but nothing... everything was clipping with the tail that I gave her, for the most part, that I wanted to use, and... or it just didn't look right, or it didn't have the right colors. So I eventually settled on that lace top. I still thought it looked pretty against like some of the colors that were on her. And it didn't look too complicated necessarily, and I did put like the body chain to sort of add something to it. But I did like want... there was a few other tops that I actually really wanted to use, and technically that tail, it's a set of CC that you can find, has a top that goes with it, but the top really and I put it on her at one point, but it conflicted with the little snake necklace, and basically I was trying to make sure to keep anything that was full on snake, like actually a snake piece of jewelry or something. I wanted to try to keep as much of that as possible. Now, with the male, I didn't have as much like jewelry or anything like that was technically for males that had snakes on it. I think even the earpiece I put on him, I actually have to take the masculinity thing off. I usually don't bother with that. I like that it is an option. I don't tend to bother with it though, because I have quite a bit of CC for both my male and females. But my females do have a little bit more. And there are some things that I wish were in both, or could be in both. And some of them it can be, but a lot of times with certain pieces of clothing that CC people make, or jewelry and stuff like that, it literally doesn't fit very well on the opposite gender. So a lot of times that's why I don't bother with it, because then I get my hopes up hoping that it looks fine and it won't clip, but then it actually does clip through things and stuff awkwardly on the opposite gender that it was meant for. So, but I do, like, with the jewelry with him, there is an earpiece that I was like, I don't think it will, with the way his ears looks, I was like, I think I'll be fine. I think it won't, because it wasn't showing up under masculinity, because some of the CC does show up under both, but this one was not, so I was like, you know what, I don't think it would clip through weird, so I'm gonna try it. But yeah, I gave him a nose piece that nose piece is technically a snake, the earpiece is, and that was some of the only jewelry I could find. I did give him the mermaid scales because I wanted to use different scales, because I hated in the dragon one that I had to use the same wings on both of them, so I was purposely trying to use different tails and different like skin textures and things like that, different colors, to actually make sure that there was like some difference and there wasn't something that was similar, to basically get across the fact that if any of these occults were to come to the game, I want there to be options, I want there to be choices. I don't want them all to look the same. But I also eventually found, because I had 2 sets of tattoos that I didn't realize, I don't know if one of them is only shows up for the males or not, because I didn't remember seeing it when I was looking for it for the female, and I had a hard time finding the other one for the female. But yeah, I found this one that has that snaky-like texture that is different. So he technically has like the mermaid scales on to try to look like scales, but also this. But this didn't go too far up, this didn't actually go onto his head, so I'm glad that the mermaid scales were still there. They still give some of that scaly features for the snake. But yeah, I also ended up using one of the mermaid tops for the males, because again, I was definitely trying to go for more of that vibe that they wasn't so modernized. That's the word that probably best describes it. But yeah, so I definitely didn't want it to seem like, you know, they were living in the city and fancy houses, because I'd imagine if Gorgons were to come to The Sims, the versions that I would imagine and sort of want would not necessarily have the tail, but if they gave a tail as an option, they would definitely look not normal, but also having a head full of snakes would also not look normal, so I'd imagine that for the most part, especially for other Simmers gameplay, that, you know, they would live mainly off on their own and stuff like that, so I don't think they would be out amongst everyone. So I didn't want them to look like they were necessarily out in the city and stuff like that. But I actually still really liked how they turned out. I think I actually sort of like the male more so. It's something about the whole face and hair combo and stuff with him that I sort of like. But I actually do like how both of them turned out. Again, I would have preferred more snake-like hair, like actual snakes. But, you know, whatever. Couldn't find it. Oh well. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please hit that lovely like button, subscribe, and all that lovely YouTube goodiness as you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!